All right, so lots of fun on a Saturday. We're going to be talking about Title 24 sign lighting form. This is due to popular demand by one person, so super popular demand. So I went in and grabbed one. I cleaned it out so there's nobody's information. So we're just going to look at the total design watts, whether it's compliant or not, the allowed watts, sign area, all that stuff. So I took a look at this. I think I figured it out. So going forward, I think we can come up with a solution that we can understand, and then we can come up with a system. Anyway, so I'm going to use Corel and show you visually because that's what helped me to understand. So it's all about this allowed density, right? Internally versus externally. So if you're going to have an uplight, then you're only allowed 2.3 watts per square foot of the sign face, and depending on the sign face size internally, you're allowed 12 watts. So let's just look at that in Corel. So what I did is, to simplify it, is we just take a sign and just make a 12 by 12 sign. This is a square foot. And so what would we do to light that? So what you do is, I just took a look at the usual suspects. So I would say 95% of what we do is our Tetramax GE 24 volt. It's our good buddy right here. But due to COVID, supply chain demands and things like that, we end up having to sometimes go to his big brother, PowerMax. They're close. Price isn't that big a difference, but you just got to kind of go with what we can get. Also, we use Benlux for smaller stuff, but it has its own power rating. So just kind of looking at these three products to start, it, I think, gives us a pretty good average of what we're going to do here. So I went ahead and made some little scale models of our buddies here. So this is Tetramax. This is using our symbols from the last video. You can check that out. This is Benlux, and then this is just for size, for power. So this is the power consumption. What you would have to do is you got to look at the power, the watts per module. So for Tetra, it's 0.62 watts per module. I know there's system-wide module too, or system, whatever. But for what we're doing here, we'll just keep it per module. The bigger boys are 0.8, and you can see where since these come in a little weird snake, it's basically per quote-unquote module is 0.3 watts, or for the whole strip, it's 4.2 watts per strip. So it's pretty simple in that we're just gonna figure out what fits in here, and then do the math. So we like to do 1.5 to 2 inch inline to get started for our LED modules. And I like to bring them about 2 inches from the edge. Now the manufacturer might oftentimes, just because they want to, say, oh, look, ours is brighter. Sometimes they say you can get away with doing it just 2 here and kind of stretching it out. But the way our company likes to have things nice and bright and evenly lit, sometimes that doesn't work out all that great. So just to be safe on this, we're just going to go ahead and kind of go with what we do. This is 4.5 inches. Let's say this is a 5-inch deep cabinet. It's a little trim cap, little sign. It's a 1x1. So this is basically how we would fill it. So now we have essentially our watts per square foot. So what we're going to do is just go here. And so if I take these, and if we take our Mathinator here, again, you can see the other video on this. So using our Tetramax, we're at 3.72 watts per, there's our square foot. So if we were to take this to 88, let me just drop a number here. So let's just do 6. You don't have to be so big. Why are you yelling? So if we take that and that, multiply that out. So here we have, 5.28 watts per square foot if we're using Tetramax's big brother. So that's kind of like how you would do it right there. So I was thinking that what you could do, and I also did this earlier with Benlux, and if you fill the Benlux, and not that you would want to do this because this Benlux is not made for this, but if you had to, it would be somewhere around 5 watts because it would take a stick and a bit more. So, or a stick and a half, a bit more. So it actually comes closer to 6. But what all of this is doing is it's staying underneath the 12. So that's why this allowed density is basically you can't use more than 12 watts per square foot. And when you do the math, it's going to catch you. So essentially, but based on honor system, you could be putting whatever. So what I propose is like what you would do is standardize this number, and let's just say we'll call it 4. That would be a nice average. And let's just say that our average watts per square foot is 4. So then that number is what you use to fill this out. So you would take this and you would group it, and then you would take line them up and do 0, and then let's do a 4 by 8 foot face. So you take 8 of these and you go that way with it, and then you move this down a foot, and then you grab this and you move this down 2 feet. So now you have your 4 by 8 foot sign face following along with our 4 foot, well, technically, if you want to be exact, 3.72 watts per square foot. So if you just hit this with a bam, and it gives me a rectangle around the shape. And then if I hit my curves machine, then I'm going to go ahead and hit that with the square feet. So we have 32 square feet, which checks out 4 by 8. So we have 32 square feet, which is on the form here. So you type that. And they're allowing us, so all it's doing is doing the math. They're allowing us 384 watts because they're taking our 32 square feet, which is our 32 little squares here. Thank you. They're taking our 32 squares here, and we're saying 4 watts, but they're allowing us 12. That's a lot. I mean, that's 8 more watts to play with per square foot. I mean, I don't know what kind of lunatic would fill all of this up with, you could just paste these all over the place and still be under 12 watts. So how that works then is for us, we would take our 4 and we would just multiply it using our Mathinator here. And that gives us 120 watts total. And that would be our design watts. We are saying that our design is 128 watts. So we're saying our sign's 32. They're saying, fine, we don't want more than 12. So here is what you're allowed. And then they cross their arms and lean back and say, show me what you got. We say, well, we come in around 4 watts, basically, depending on what we're using. And then we're saying that 4 times 32 because of, arithmetic and Aristotle's and who all those other guys are, the dead dudes. That is 128. And so, of course, that checks out because this simple little thing here, all it does is make sure that this number is smaller than that number, and you will always comply as long as that number is smaller. Now, the funny thing is, I'm like, well, what if you just were crazy and you just put 1? Is there some sort of a check that, of course, you're not going to have a 32 square foot sign and only have 1 watt? That would be crazy. You can't just take this guy here and have it in the middle as 1 watt to light that. But it's allowed, it's fine. So whether or not that triggers some sort of audit or something, of course it complies because that's just simply a smaller number. So as long as you have a smaller number here than here, you'll always comply. But the idea is to be, forthcoming about it and multiply out your density watts per foot. It might help. I know there's not room here. It might help to force you to put your watts per. That way, you could understand this because they're not telling you that. So you're supposed to just know this number, but but having an extra little space here that would make you put your number of 4 or 3 point, whatever your design is, 3.2 or 5.28, whatever. So that's basically how that works. It's just calculating what you're going to use in 1 square foot and then multiplying that out over all of the square feet. And again, this is way in the advanced part of it. We don't sometimes, we're not even sticking LEDs for months. You're calculating this based on a decision later. So I think it's a good faith thing. They're just showing, you want to show good faith that you can back up this number with, an acceptable number. Even if you said 6, You know, even if you were like, well, let's just play it super safe and we change this number to 6 and we multiply 6 times 32, you know, you're still well within. They just want to see this number smaller than this number based on this number, you know. So whatever this square footage times 12, that's that. So what was kind of interesting is, like, because I'm a dork, and of course I'm going to dork around, I was like, well, what's this all about? So I think the real reason behind this form is that the only way you're going to get below 12 is with an LED product. And so ultimately this form is to kill all other forms of lighting. So I was like, well, let me test that since I have it all like graphically laid out here. So let's take our buddy, the square foot here, and we're going to go ahead and create a 6 foot wide sign face here just for funs. Because, you know, it's fun. Title 24. And then we're going to go over here to our symbols. You remember our symbols. You saw the video. And I'm going to drag in a 72-inch T12 HO lamp. You remember these. So this is the stalwart way of illuminating any sign back in the, you know, since the dinosaurs. So this is basically the layout of a lamp. So this is to scale. This is a perfect size, an actual 72-inch socket. And you basically have them on 12-inch centers. We would do back in the day anywhere from 10 to 12, no more than 12. So let's take this sign and multiply it out. We've got ourselves 3 THO lamps, and we have a sign face about this big. So if I hit BAM, it puts a rectangle around. I'll slide this over. We'll call upon our buddy the curves machine again. And this gives us, and that's true, it's a 6x3 face, so 18 square feet. And we have these lamps. Now, I did some diligent checking online. I looked all around, and pretty much the consensus is 85 watts per lamp for a 72-inch T12 HO. So now we have 3 of these. We do the plus, 255 watts. Okay. So what you do is you take your watts and you just work backwards on the form here. So you know that our design watts is 128, and we know our sign face is 18. So if we work backwards and divide these two, then that gives us our watts per square foot. And you can see where 12 is very suspiciously close, just enough under our buddies, the T12s. So I think the Title 24 is mostly just to make sure nothing sneaks under. Now you could say, well, I'm just going to eliminate one of these and I'll just change the spacing. But this would be horribly, horribly lit. And I don't think you'll be in business very long. But yes, indeed, you could skirt that by getting a 9 watt. So technically, if you did 2 lamps and you were honest about this. But if you were going to be honest about your lamps, you're not going to be able to pass here, because you're going to go 255, and for 18 square feet, they're only going to give you 216 watts, but you have 3 THO lamps, T12 HOs, and you can see where 216 is indeed bigger or smaller than 255, does not comply. So it all checks out. So I think, this is just to get rid of HO lamps, metal halide, nickel, or the sodium, high pressure sodium lamps, those big football size lamps, all that stuff, all gone. So that's it. So we could talk about, if we want to kind of decide upon maybe like a standardized number just to help fill this out. But I kind of like the number 4. But if you want to make it more, to the point, you technically would want to figure out every sign. But for the products, if we want to just kind of lay out different numbers for the products. So if we know that we're going to be using, 18 times, if we know we're going to be using this product specifically, then we could go here and we would multiply 18 times 322, or that number. Anyway, 3.72. So you get 66.96. So you would put that in there. So we're saying 18. And that's our design. And of course, that's smaller. So of course it's going to comply. But that's being super accurate. So I don't know if they want to see some decimals now and then because it lets them know that you're actually getting out your pencil and it's nice and sharp and you're using exact numbers, or if a kind of a shop average will work, So I think that might work. So anyway, but even if you put 8, like I say, that gives you 8 more watts. So it doesn't matter as long as you're in compliance. As long as that number that you multiply your square footage is less than 12, you will comply. So if you have any questions, that's it. Good luck.